Hello, all you good people. I'm Kevin Graham. He's Colin and there's Brian Degning, and this is your Wednesday Bulletin. It's a bulletin. It's absolutely bursting at the seams. Hopefully with good stuff, and yous are going to enjoy this. First things first, Colin, I'll come to you. Scottish football tonight will pay its respects to Walter Smith, who passed away yesterday, the former Rangers, Everton and Scotland manager. Now, Walter played a massive part in my Celtic life when I actually started thinking back about this yesterday. And when the news came through yesterday, it was almost as if part of my adolescence had actually disappeared. Over the last 24 hours, there's been tributes came in. And he seems to have been a guy who managed to bridge a sometime bitter divide for all but a very, very small few, eh?
Yeah, definitely. It's very rare that you see someone get the appreciation from both sides of the Glasgow divide, and also from teams all over Scotland, all over Europe. Unfortunately, Kevin, I wasn't in the 90s, so I didn't have to sort of live through his golden spell at Ibrox, but I did live through his second spell and also his time in charge of the Scotland team. And his teams were always set up difficult to beat, but always had that bit of quality they could turn to stick the ball in the back of the net. And for that, he was a very successful manager. And when he brought Tommy Burns into the Scotland setup, it showed that his interest was success on the park first. It didn't matter where you came from. I mean, here's a klaxon at 1 minute 48. I'm going to mention Kenny Miller here. But the fact that he brought Kenny Miller across the divide again, it just showed he always interested in was winning football. And I seen a fantastic story that was posted by, I think it was a Hearts page on Twitter last night, and they said that they were raising funds to go to the France 98 World Cup, and they were a disabled supporters tartan army, and they raised all the money, they booked the tickets, and then one of the guys that was doing the organising, that had the spending money and everything, he done a runner at the last minute, so they were left with nothing. So they still had their flights, they still went over, they had their match tickets. They went over to France with the idea that their families were going to try and raise the money over here and send it over to them. And lo and behold, they were sitting next to Walter Smith at one of the first games. And he was telling them the story, and the first thing he did is just went into his wallet and just says, "Here, I don't know what's there, but just take it." That kind of shows the kind of man that he was. And I think it'll be a massive loss to Scottish football. And it was a really sad thing, especially when it looked as if he may have just been coming on the mend a couple of weeks ago. But this disease is horrible, and I'm sure we've all lost family members from it as well, and the sooner we can find a cure, the better.
Is that, Colin? He did mention the 90s there, and it was almost like I was standing at the bus stop watching a party bus drive by me every single week. It seemed to be. Brian, you're a bit younger than me as well, eh? It seems that Walter Smith did sort of bridge that divide in Glasgow, and also I've seen a lot of nice tributes from Everton as well. And when there is the two big results they got with Scotland were the two wins against France, who were the world champions at the time.
I remember exactly where I was. There was a pub called Europa at Queen Street Station. I'd finished work a bit early and ran up as fast as I could to watch the game. I remember that night was one of my best nights as a Scotland fan, when Gary Caldwell, who'd been ridiculed off Trezeguet previously, taunted, scored the winner. Walter Smith, I think other than Bill Struth, the most successful manager in Rangers history, I think you probably argue he's the most influential. You know, great figure for Scottish football, a real class act. Everyone admired him, everyone respected him, most people feared him. He was, it really was a giant of a man, and I was lucky enough to meet him personally a couple of times through my old work, and what an absolute great human being. And he was still quite an intimidating presence, even as he got older, with that kind of stern look. But as soon as you spoke to him, it faded away, and he was really warm and friendly and telling stories, and just a real good guy. And I saw an absolutely beautiful tribute from Ali McCoist on TalkSport. So whether you're a Rangers fan, Celtic fan, football fan, you should watch it. And he put it really, really well. And Scottish football's lost an absolute giant and a legend. Rangers have lost a legend. I'm sure the fans will be absolutely gutted. Fans all over the country. But my thoughts are with his wife that's lost a husband, his sons that have lost a father, and his grandkids that have lost a granddaddy. And that's the saddest thing of all. So my heart goes out to them, to every Rangers fan this morning, every family member, and Scottish football as a whole. I think it's a sadder place.
Well said, Brian. What we'll do is we'll move on. Brian, you weren't with us last week. Now Celtic are on a better run now. So Epicurus, the Stoic philosopher, says, "Don't talk about your philosophy, embody it." Do you think over the last couple of weeks that Ange Postecoglou has embodied his philosophy, or more importantly, the team is beginning to start to embody his philosophy?
Yeah, I think the latter part of that's pretty accurate. Saw Mikey Johnson's comments talking about the philosophy and the fact the players are now getting it. I think Callum McGregor's commented on it. You can see that, and there's this perception that the sort of gung-ho approach was the way he wanted the team, and I think Postecoglou was fairly clear after both 6-0 games that there was improvements, there was changes to make. It wasn't quite there. I still don't think we're quite there. I still think we're a good 4 players short of where we need to be. But I think the players are understanding it a bit more. I think Starfelt and Carter Vickers have been very good. They've seem to have understood where the spaces are going to be they need to cover. I think the midfielders have adapted a bit more as well and tried to buy into the system a bit more, and they know it's a bit more clearer for them where to move and how to, it's full-blown attack, but it's attacking as a team and defending as a team. And I think now we start to see is we're controlling games because we're doing it as one team together. When we attack, everyone attacks. When we defend, everyone defends. And you're not having these gaps as much as you had. But it's still an exciting brand of football, and more importantly, we're getting results. So I think if I was to bet my house on Ange Postecoglou changing his ways, I would lose that bet because there's no way that man's changing. He said it himself the other day. He's 56 years old. He's not going to relearn the wheel. He's going to do what's brought him success and the way he wants his team to play. And we're doing that, and the players are buying into it more than I think. Not even buying into it, but understanding it a bit more than maybe they did initially, because by all accounts it's a lot of work to take on and stuff. And I think it's hard to quantify, but I think the addition of the sports scientist actually coming in, and that seems to have made the improvement because the players are looking fitter already, and that's got to be a factor as well.
It's interesting you mentioned looking fitter, Colin, and you're giving the credit to the sports scientist there, Brian. I wonder if us looking to improve, there has been an improvement in fitness in the actual squad, but I wonder if the fact is we look fitter is because we're controlling the game more.
It could be. That could very much be the case. When we were on the fan media conference yesterday with Callum McGregor, that was one of the questions that was asked to him, was how important was that introduction of Anton McElhone as the sports scientist and what that done to the team. And McGregor was saying that, and it was kind of interesting because McGregor says it's a position we'd been looking for all summer. So it was as if that he almost had a say in it, the way he was coming across. That might just be the way he was speaking, but it was just an interesting turn of phrase as we were looking for it. But he says that there was obviously work being done in the background, but now you've got someone with experience who was in the States, he was at Spurs, someone that's done this job full time, even if he did have a spell in charge of my local terrible side, Greenock Morton. It is someone who brings that experience to the role, and he thinks that it's not something, although we're seeing the impact right away, is maybe something you won't see until further down the line as the season progresses, as we play these 3 games a week to see the difference in fitness then to what we are right now.
It's 3 games a week. I mean, let's have a think about this. Is this our 4th game in 12 days?
Something along those lines, yep.
And so we'll play 5 games in 15 days if you count Saturday's one against Livingston. So the team has to take breathers during games because all they're doing is they're playing games and there's recovery time. Playing games, recovery time. Now, Colin, you had quite a strong view on St Johnstone at the weekend when they came to Celtic Park and basically sat in. It ended up, it was a comfortable victory for Celtic. St Johnstone's expected goals was 0.12. So there you go. I have been reading up on how good expected goals, what expected goals actually prove. I just don't disregard stuff. The reason that I got round to reading about expected goals was I was reading about the City Group and their philosophy. And obviously Ange Postecoglou was appointed by the City Group to go to Yokohama and how they use expected goals and stuff like that. And so it got me interested and I started reading some of the Celtic stats stuff. So I might be using it more often when I'm trying to get my hand on this philosophy. But getting back to that, St Johnstone didn't come to play football on Saturday, did they? They had a wee go in the first 12, 13 minutes. 5 minutes after 5 minutes into the second half, then just decided, we're just going to sit in here and not take a tanking.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we go into that, I see Stephen McGonagall's back in the chat after being in hospital last week, so great to see that you're on the mend, Stephen. Congratulations on your getting back out and getting back about. Hopefully you'll be on your feet soon. But yeah, look, St Johnstone at the weekend, right? And I said before we came on, I was so disappointed in them. I expected so much more because you look at it, they won the 2 cups in Scotland last year. And even in the games that they've played so far, it was like they are trying to play football. They've come away from this whole Murray Davidson kicks you off the park. And that's what they went back to on Saturday. I mean, you look at the build-up. You had the Carter Vickers and Chris Kane incident, which is a complete shambles. Chris Kane should have been sent off every single day of the week. But then after that, and I think this comes down to the fact that the referee lost complete control of the game. St Johnstone just went for anything above the ball. And you see it, there's about 4 or 5 fouls that lead up to the actual penalty. Mm-hmm. And if you've got a referee, and I had this argument on Twitter with someone through the week, they're telling me, he was the referee was scored 8 out of 10. That person clearly wasn't watching the game because he'd lost control of the game. He just started booking players and there's a foul. He's looking to his linesman for support. Was that a foul? Who did that come off of? The standard of Scottish refereeing is shocking, absolutely shocking. And the introduction of VAR will do nothing to help that. So between that and between the St Johnstone performance, it's enough to kill what should have been an exciting game of football.
I haven't been impressed with some of the teams this season, the way they've set up against Celtic. I'm going back, you mentioned Murray Davison, and for me, Murray Davison is the most Rangers type player never to play for Rangers. There's a couple others in Scottish football over the years that I've get that impression from, but Murray Davison for me he's always been a Rangers player in waiting, but it's just never happened for him. Brian, I mean the Cameron Carter Vickers thing, you get kicked, you get punched, and you get booked. How does that add up?
It's sadly it's nothing new, is it? It's the same old. I think Brendan Rodgers, there's one of the bingo things to go off. I think
13:38.
38. There we go. I think he said that amateurs refereeing a professional game, which is true because they don't do it full time, so they're by definition an amateur. So you've got an amateur put in charge of professional athletes in a professional game, and it shows. There's just a glaring inconsistency. The refs panic, they run over, they see a stramash, they just book 2 players at random. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. Like, just after a weekend Lions for less than Chris King get away with a yellow card. Like, it's madness. And do you know what I'm really disappointed about with St Johnstone? And I know they lost Alan McCann, who I think they were robbed, by the way, for a fee for him, but he's excellent. He was great for them last season, and I think you can see there's a real touch of quality missing in their team. But I just feel like if I was a St Johnstone fan or Motherwell fan or St Mirren or whoever, I'd rather my team just went and tried to play football and had a goal. When was the last time you saw any team in the SPL or the SPFL other than Dale Fun doing stepovers or, going out attack or trying to play a bit of decent football. It doesn't happen often enough. Aberdeen have been trying it and they've not been doing it well, to be fair. But I don't know, you'd just like to see a wee bit more, and chances are, like, if you're St Johnstone or Livingston or whoever and you're playing against Dale Fun, you're not really expecting anything, are you? You're probably going to lose. You might as well at least try. And I think the teams that have had success against us have actually tried. They've actually opened up and went for us, and I think it's something that, we had a discussion about it on the group chat. I don't think Scottish football is going to evolve unless teams start trying to play football. Because I think it's not as if they just play like that. And see if they just played that against Celtic or Rangers and shut in deeply and tried to get a point. I could understand, although I don't condone it. But it's when they play each other, some of these sides, and the football is atrocious because they don't have a style of play. Like, we're talking about Hibs, we're playing Hibs tonight. What Hibs style of play? What is the signature style for Hibs now? They don't have one.
No. See, when you look at it, Dundee United came to Celtic Park. I actually came out and had a go at us, and they got a draw out it. Now, St Johnstone and Motherwell, the last two games, both of those teams had 0 shots on target over 90 minutes. Now, it's not just as a team you'd be disappointed. There was, about 100 fans there for St Johnstone at the weekend. Imagine paying 30 quid to go to Celtic Park and watch your team just sit behind the ball for 90 minutes, barely have a go at them. Not even, Joe Hart could have sat there in a deck chair at the weekend. Not a single shot on target over the last 180 minutes. Now, you can say that's great defending from Celtic, or you can say it's a case of a team just going there and admitting we're likely going to get beat, so we'll just try and damage limitation from the word go.
And it's one of those things, Colin, it's a tactic that, because what people will say, just to counter that, is that, Celtic, when they play in Europe, sometimes sit in because teams are, bigger budgets than them, stuff like that. But then I don't like that either. I don't think that's ever really served us that well. I always think we should go and have a go, against teams, because unless you try and play that way, you're never going to get better at it. And if you don't get better at it, you can't evolve. And if you can't evolve, then what's the point? It's a real bugbear for me. I had a rant about it a few weeks ago with Paul about, if you look at, teams in Europe that are just overlapping Celtic and Scottish teams, because, they've just got systems and philosophies in place that they're trying to play football a good way, and the players are playing good way. And, it's just, it can be embarrassing at times, especially living in England, defending Scottish football, and then you watch, Motherwell versus Livingston, and you think, right, I get the criticism. I see what they're talking about,
I do think there's an honesty on the field in Scottish football with the players that are there, because there is a certain level of player, and there's even only a certain level of player will come to Celtic because of the level of the league that we actually play in. But I do kind of, this whole what teams should do when they're playing Celtic and what Celtic should do. For me, I've said this plenty of time, I want Celtic to go out there and try to play attacking football and try to entertain. But then there is another argument, it's a sporting spectacle. It is not an entertainment. Where do you sit on that, Colin? Is it a sporting spectacle or is it an entertainment? Is it now an entertainment leisure industry? Because it is an industry. You look at how other leagues all around the world are actually packaged, and how sports scene tries to package the Scottish game and that. It is an entertainment.
It is. There is an element to that. But I guess, see, for your diehards like us that go week in, week out, it doesn't matter if you win 1-0 or if you win 6-0. The most important thing is you put those 3 points on the board. But there is a way of doing that and still being able to play proper Celtic-style football. The Celtic way that everybody goes on about. Now, the people would say that it's best kind of epitomised by the Tommy Burns teams. But the difference would have been that Tommy Burns teams didn't go on to win much. They won a Scottish Cup and that was it. They didn't go on to win leagues. So you've got to try and find a balance between looking at trying to get the points on the board and trying to play attractive football. I think we had that problem at the start of the season. I think we had a style of football which Ange has been trying to bring in, and we saw that it caused us some trouble. I'm thinking like away to Livingston, away to Hearts, where we didn't quite bed into that and we hadn't grown in. We hadn't understood fully the role of what the inverted fullback was. But now what you're seeing is it's a team that's gelling together. You're seeing almost a consistent 11 week in and week out, and they're starting to play this football. So although it might be 2-0 now, seeing maybe 6-7 weeks' time, you might come up against another team and then you do them 5-6-0, and you're playing the exact same football, the exact same possession, and probably have the exact same amount of shots as what you had on Saturday. It's just you're more of a sort of polished article, and you see those chances getting put in the back of the net. Maybe
every team in Scottish football needs a Charlie Mulgrew who likes doing scissor kicks to win and crossing the ball with his right foot. We'll need a Charlie Mulgrew to provide us with entertainment at times. Colin, you mentioned inverted fullbacks there, and you're going to need to go in about 20 minutes because you're going to the game this evening and you've got a couple of things to tidy up. And John Paul Taylor's actually came out in the last hour or so. I think if you're going to the game tonight, you better leave within the next hour to actually get in before kick-off. The amount of problems that there's going to be. You were at the fan media conference yesterday, Colin, with Callum McGregor. You've just spoke about inverted fullbacks, so I'll play the video clip when he actually talks about the inverted fullbacks.
Yeah, it's like you said, obviously it's been a thing that the gaffers tried to implement here. I think it's worked, reasonably well. We're getting better at it all the time, and you can start to see, one coming in, maybe one staying out, giving us a little bit of width. So, all it does is just slide you across a little bit and sort of gives you the two controlling players to build up and try and outnumber the opposition. So, it's just important that whatever fullback comes in, you then just balance off on the side, and then it's about quick combinations, trying to break through the press. And then obviously on transition with the team, they turn over the ball, then, it's just important that first and foremost we control the middle of the pitch, force them wide, and then everyone recovers back central and we defend from there. So that's pretty much in a nutshell as well as I can explain it for you.
Callum McGregor explained it far better than what I ever could. The other night there I was rewatching the game and I found the positions our fullbacks got themselves in as to be utterly wild when you look at where you expect your fullbacks to be on a pitch. There was at one point our two fullbacks, Brian, were playing as two number 10s, and they had actually swapped over. Juranovic was on the right hand side, and Anthony Ralston was on the left hand side. It's a thing that Manchester City and Bayern Munich, when Pep was there, brought into a system, and Josip Juranovic spoke about it yesterday as well in the press conference, and he says against Betis he could actually hear the Betis players going, "You're meant to be marking him." It causes confusion, not just for the opposition, but sometimes for us fans, and also it looked like for our own side for when it first started. But I think Callum summed it up perfectly there.
Yeah, and I think it really sort of it shows that the players are getting to, as we said earlier, they're getting to know the system better. They're knowing when to come in and when to go out, and and it is a complicated system to get. And once you get players used to it, and they're getting better at it. And as I say, we've been keeping clean sheets as well, so defensively we're looking stronger. So even though they're coming inside, somebody's covering them as well. Say it's harder for opposition players to mark. You're getting the overloads and the diagonals in. So when it works really well. I think it's just at the start it was harder to take. And look, sometimes we've had Ralston and Montgomery as our two fullbacks, guys that one that was written off before the season started, one that's kind of just trying to find his feet in the team. It's really hard for these guys. They might, are they going to be completely capable of playing that long term? I think they're doing it, but I think there's times they get caught out. I think Juranovic does it pretty well. I think he's a clever enough, talented enough player to do it. Not that they turn there, but I just think he gets it a bit more. And I think, again, it's just an indication that once the squad improves and maybe other players come in, you start to see gaps in that communication moving. I remember when football was so simple.
Johnny Ryan, that's a good quote. Football's moved on from the game, from the time when 11 guys were put on the pitch and told to kick the ball up and run faster, run harder and get it into the opposition goal.
It depends what level of football you're watching, Kevin. I've watched some Scottish Championship games and that's still the case this season.
I've watched some English Championship games and it's still the case down there. And these guys are getting
rush football down there, isn't it? It's like
I know. The English Championship is an utter slog of a league, and it's very surprising to see any good football in that league whatsoever when you actually watch it. Colin, I thought on Saturday Josip Juranovic was utterly fantastic as left back. When I watched it back there, playing the inverted fullback role, he just seems so comfortable on what is his most unnatural side.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because you've seen Ange after the game speaking about the left back position, and he mentioned Juranovic in as part of his options. So you're going, is he this kind of versatile player that Ange sees that if he needs a left back, he can throw him in? Or is it just a case of, well, yeah, he can play left back, but it's sort of a last option like we had at the weekend? I mean, Montgomery probably would get in ahead of him and he would switch to his right back position. But as you say, he's so natural that he kind of drifted into the inside of the park. But then, and it's something that I don't think Montgomery and Ralston have really done overly well this season, is when that ball transition, when it's coming that the team is having a go at us, and that was a point that McGregor was making earlier, is how quick they get back into their natural positions. Mm-hmm. And Juranovic managed to do that so much better than any of the other fullbacks that I've seen so far this season, is that he knew that, okay, I might be in the middle of the park now, but I'm coming right back into that position, and he sprinted back. Other times I've seen sort of the fullbacks jogging back into position, hoping that the centre-half will come out and cover them, and it leaves a gap in the middle. And I've seen us been exposed a couple of times this season where we've lost goals from that. Juranovic was just switched on. He just knew straight back in, straight back out. It might not be a position that he's played before, but his natural position is a fullback, and he knows just to come straight back into that when we've not got the ball.
It just shows how muddled we are as a club that our best left back's a right back, isn't it?
Well.
Brian, Colin mentioned Adam Montgomery there, and I had a quick a look at the heat maps for Montgomery in the last couple of games and Juranovic for the game on Saturday, and you could actually see Adam Montgomery played more as an old school fullback. He was in the areas where you would expect a fullback to be, but truthfully, he's in the areas where you expect an attacking winger to be, because that's what he is.
I'll be honest, I'm just amazed. That's XG you've mentioned, heat maps. You know, I love it.
Kev's going all Ted Lasso on us over here.
I know.
Oh man, you're right. I think there's a player in Montgomery. I really do, and I think Ange sees it as well. I know he's a wee bit inconsistent, but he's still young enough, and I think he'll. It's funny because I'm not 100% sure where I think his best position is, because I do like him on the wing, but he has got a wee bit of dig about him, and his positional sense isn't bad. So. And am I right in saying, did he not start off as a striker?
Montgomery was a kind of left-sided forward, yeah.
Left-sided forward, aye. So it shows that, he's versatile as well, and I think, like Juranovic being versatile, I think that's a key theme with players in Postecoglou's team, is that, Kyogo, Jota, Abada, Juranovic, McGregor, Montgomery are all guys that can probably play a number of positions. And I think that really suits when they do that rotation, because they're fairly comfortable. I mean, a lot of times you see Callum McGregor actually drifting out wide and almost take the ball on the touchline for the overlap. So I think that's a real quality he likes in players, which is why I still think we're a bit short. Like Ralston, as much as I really like him, I think his attitude's exceptional. I think he's so brave and so determined to win, but he is limited in his ability. I think Rogic is very, very good, but again, he's very specific to his role. Same with Turnbull. I think he's very much, that's his position and that's it. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any changes in those parts of the field for a bit more versatility, to see if that helps the system.
I find that... Sorry, Colin, on you go.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that's part of the thing that Callum was asked about on the press conference yesterday, was the sort of idea of the midfield positions. And someone was saying to him, where would you prefer to play? Would you prefer to play as the box-to-box, as the number 6, as the number 10? And, well, instead of me trying to explain it, Kev, why don't we listen to what Callum had to say?
Let's play the clip now.
Do you know, it's a difficult question now. Like you said, I've played in so many positions that I just think anywhere in the midfield, I like being an 8 as well, in terms of connecting the game and then going and joining in and and helping out with goals and assists as well. And then the position that I'm sort of playing just now, it allows me to dictate the game and build the attacks and get it through the thirds. So to be honest, I'd play anywhere for this club, and like you just touched on there, I'd even play in goals. But I just love my football here, and I'm happy to play wherever the manager wants me to play.
The comment that jumps out at me there, that's the first time I've seen this clip, is I would play anywhere for this football club, and I'll love to hear that for the club captain, really do. Colin, Callum spoke about him sitting in the number 6 position there. Since he's came back into the team, Aberdeen away, we had 550 passes. Motherwell, we had it was 450. Motherwell was 550 passes. Against Friday, it was 650. And against St Johnstone on Saturday, there was over 800 passes we made. For me, that shows Callum McGregor in that number, in that role back in that team. Especially the 3 games where he's been moved back to the number 6. He's the reason that we're controlling games. He's the reason that we're controlling the pace of the games. And he is the reason why we look far tighter as a unit now.
Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. I think McGregor was obviously, you could see how much he was missed earlier on in the season. That game against Dundee United, the trip to the Spaghetti ad, you just saw that there wasn't someone who wants to take that ball and his first instinct is, I need to go forward with that. Because that's what you see from Callum McGregor in that sitting role. You don't see him kind of turn around and say, Starfelt, Cameron Carter-Vickers, here's the ball back. His first instinct's to get the ball, turn, and see where he can take it forward, as he says, play it through the thirds. Although I would say that over the last couple of games, and in particularly the St Johnstone game at the weekend, and I saw someone make a comment a minute or two ago about crab ball, the idea of the ball going like this.
Horseshoe.
And if you look at it, 2 of the people that has the most amount of touches on the ball for Celtic are Cameron Carter-Vickers and Carl Starfelt. And that's because they pass the ball to each other. It's simple. If you watch it, it goes from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. And it's like watching tennis between the 2 of them, just passing it back and forward. They slow the game down. It's only once it gets beat on them that you see the sort of style of football that Celtic want to play. Once it goes out wide or once it goes into McGregor, then you see the sort of intensity pick up. And that's something I'm not sure we can improve that with the players that we've got. I think the centre-backs are generally quite slow in possession of the ball. It's not like you had an Ayer whose first instinct was to drive forward and try and beat a man and play the ball on, the same way Van Dijk did for us as well. I think they 2 are very safe, and it's like the most completion sort of percentage of the pass, that's the one they'll make. They don't take the risk to sort of miss a man out and go wide. So when you're trying to build the attack, if it starts with Carl Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers, it immediately slows it down. If you get it out to the wings or get it into McGregor right away, then you can go on the quick break. And if you look at the goal that Jota scored over at Fir Park, that is the kind of quick out up the park in the back of the net. That's the sort of style that I think McGregor is more leading towards. That's the way that the manager wants us to play.
That was one thing that Mikey Johnson actually says as well in the interview, and Joe Hart says it last week as well, that they want to play that front foot attacking football. Brian, there's a couple of things that Colin says that I want to get your opinion on. One, I reckon that the 2 guys at the back play the ball between them to try and drag teams out. I think they slow the game down deliberately to try and get one of their centre forwards to move 5 yards up the pitch, to try and slow them down. And for me, that is the reason that we play out from the back as well, is to cause an overload at the back. Perfect example, you look at the overload we caused against Ferencváros, one long ball and Jota scores. I can understand why Cameron Vickers and that get the most touches, but I do think that's tactical as well. That's to drag teams out. And when you've got teams like Motherwell and St Johnstone sitting back against us, they are going to have loads of the ball because they need to wait on that opening and somebody to make that break.
Yeah, I was going to say that exact same thing. Actually, that's my sort of thinking behind it, because I would suspect it's different in Europe because teams are more aggressive in the front, so they're probably taking less time. They're probably just trying to pass it out first time. I mean, if you get the ball like we had against St Johnstone, there's no point in trying to pick a pass when it's all so packed. You just well wait until they try and come up and try and pick a space. Get back to Callum McGregor. One of the great things with McGregor, and I've been sort of saying for the start of the season, I didn't think the attack was the problem. I didn't actually think the defence was the problem. I thought the midfield connection was the problem sometimes with Celtic. I thought that transition through the midfield was there for us. And when Callum McGregor's in the team, it's totally, it's like defensively we better when Kyle goes in the team as an attacker because he presses so well for the front. Offensively, we're so good with McGregor's in the team because he can take the burden off the centre backs. He's always drifting, getting in, collecting it off them, making a pass and moving. And it helps Roderick and it helps Turnbull be better. I think they're both far better when Callum McGregor's in the team. I think the defence looks more confident because they know if he's available, they can get the ball to him and he'll take care of it. They don't have to be scared of misplacing a pass when he's there. I think he's immensely important for how we play moving forward. And you picked up on it, Kev. He's such a good speaker, isn't he? Like he's a good interviewer. He's a good talker. He's a good ambassador. Like, and he's very, by all accounts, he's always been a very sensible young guy. And I think it comes across. So really proud to have him as captain. And I say, what a player.
Colin, it's quite mad that we all had doubts about Callum McGregor's personality to be the captain of Celtic Football Club, and he's completely batted that right out of the park.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, and kind of moving on from the point we were talking about the tactics, one thing I've noticed over the last couple of games is the togetherness of that team. See, if we go back to the Chris Kane and Cameron Carter-Vickers incident, last season we would have seen a couple of players standing there. Maybe Scott Brown would have went over and got involved. Maybe Ayer at a push. But that team came together on Saturday. There was Joe Hart sprinting 40 yards out of his goal to get Carter-Vickers away from the scenario. There was others trying to get themselves involved in the scenario. It just shows that togetherness of the team. And that's something I think we have really, really lacked over the last number of months. And when you look at McGregor, if he's talking like that to us and to the press, what is he like when he's talking to the guys and kind of bringing them into the team, making them feel part of the squad? It's people maybe thought last year he's not the most vocal, and I agreed with him at the time. I didn't think he was the most vocal. We had numerous discussions on here saying who might actually be the captain, but we've got to hold our hands up and say we're all completely wrong. McGregor is a natural in this role, and the fact that we've tied him down on a new contract for me is one of the most important bits of business that we'll have done this summer.
Another thing, Brian, you're talking about leaders in the dressing room. We'll bring up Callum McGregor's new contract clip just there now, Colin. Josip Juranovic, Mikey Johnson have both mentioned Joe Hart as a leader in that dressing room as well. Are we surprised at that?
Yes and no. I think when he was joining, one of the things I said was I wasn't blown away by his goalkeeping ability. You know, I think he's a good keeper, but I don't think he's a great keeper. I think he's considerably better than what we've had for a while. But what he brings that's so important to him is that experience, that leadership for the back, that organisation, that ferocity as well. I love when he makes a save. He's in people's faces. He's yelling about it. He really has a real passion, and that's got to inspire the guys in front of him. There may be times where you think, "Oh, you could have went for that quicker, or you should have covered that." But what he adds to the team is greater than just his goalkeeping ability. And I think he's spoke quite passionately about Celtic already. I think he's one of these guys that's sort of got it quite quickly, I would say. Mm-hmm. Just the things he said and the way he spoke and stuff like that. And I think that's really good. And just before you play the clip of McGregor, I love when they had that kind of Rami. I love when they asked Postecoglou about it. And he said he always has a chuckle at these things because he watches the guys that don't really want to get involved kind of hanging about at the back, kind of shouting and kind of standing about. Then they hold me back stuff. I love that for him. But yeah, I think that even you can see the players celebrate together the goal. There does look like a real kinship And I think that was something Postecoglou said at the start, wasn't it? He wanted a certain type of person that was going to bring that culture, and I think you can see it.
When you look at the unique angle footage that Celtic TV actually produce, and Giakoumakis scoring it on Saturday there, the whole team was there celebrating with him, apart from Joe Hart. Yeah. And that is something that shows, it's a small thing that you think, as a football fan, that should happen. But you see it in teams where it doesn't happen, where that togetherness isn't there. And that is probably down to guys like Callum McGregor. That is down to winning games of football. That is down to enjoying your football as well. Ain't it, Colin, that there is a lot of factors? It's not just black and white here. There's a lot of factors. Yeah. We've got guys settling in from every different corners of the globe. You've got a manager who's came from Australia, but some of the press seem to think he's came from Mars and doesn't know anything about Scottish football or what goes on in European football whatsoever. We're under a massive transition, and signing somebody like Callum McGregor up for the next 5 years is massive to us.
Absolutely. And you look at the sort of leadership and experience that departed in the summer with the likes of Scott Brown going in there. Scott Brown you look at Kieran Tierney's interview the other day, he was saying that when he wants to captain Arsenal, he wants to captain them the way that Scott Brown captained Celtic. And the fact that he's got that sort of influence on young players that's coming in to the club, you can only hope that Callum McGregor has that exact same influence when the next sort of batch of players are coming through, or the next couple of signings are coming in, that he'll be the one that they say he is Mr. Celtic, the way that Scott Brown was over the last sort of 9-10 years.
We're talking about Mr. Celtic here. Let's hear him talking about his new contract.
Yeah. Listen, it was a very quick sort of process. Me and the club started speaking in the summer. I was desperate to get it done, get it sorted, and like you said, just focus solely on the football side of things and leading the club. So, I was so happy to get it done very quickly, and like I said, now it's on to the business of making sure everyone's performing, making sure I'm performing, and like you said, leading this great club to success.
He says it all there, Brian. He actually sums up what we actually need in your club captain. Somebody who's been through good times and somebody who is now in a period of transition, who's there for the long term. And he says it was done quickly. Do you actually think, and Colin mentioned it earlier on, do you believe that he had any, when he was signing this contract, that he went to the board, what is your plans for the future?
I would think so. I mean, he's a pretty sensible guy, as we spoke about. I think he's quite a smart kid, and I would imagine so. I'd imagine conversations with Postecoglou, and they seem to have quite a nice relationship. And one of the things he epitomises as well is that never get too high, never get too low mentality. And it's like Postecoglou, when he wins, he's like, yeah, it was good. Let's go on to the next one. When next week, he's like, that wasn't so good. Let's go on to the next one. And I love that sort of level-headedness about it. And I think McGregor's sort of personifies that in a lot of ways. So I would imagine there was conversations, but I think, he seems to pop very quickly into Postecoglou's way of thinking. The club apparently do as well, which we'll see soon. So yeah, I would imagine he's had some sort of input and sort of ask questions, because I don't imagine I don't imagine he would have been short offers. And it does look like him and Postecoglou have got a kind of a good relationship and a sort of kinship regarding how they see football, and specifically football at Celtic.
Yeah, I just want to... Sorry, Kev. I just want to say this clip, because I've got to jump off here in a minute. I've got to get myself ready to go Easter Road tonight. I probably should have left an hour ago. The video clip that came out after the game on Saturday, that showed... I don't know if you've had the chance to see it, where Ange and Callum go over to the fan who's behind the dugout, who I think has been kind of severely ill for a number of months.
His name's
now.
Kevin. I can't remember his second name, but his name's Kevin.
But when you listen to Celtic TV and they're saying, we're going to get this interview with Ange, and it's just coming up after he speaks to Kevin and stuff like that, and they were kind of, I almost felt as if Celtic TV were annoyed at the fact that Ange and Callum were spending so much time speaking to this gentleman, and it just showed that they don't care what about schedules or what else. They just care about showing how much they love the club, and if you show that you love the club, they're willing to give you that time back. And Callum yesterday, that's the second press conference he's gave since signing that contract for fan media. The first one was done on very short notice and only certain ones could attend. He knew that was the case and made sure that he made time for a second one yesterday. So that connection to the club, it's going to win over the fan base. It's going to win over everybody. And we were looking for who's going to be the next Mr. Celtic going forward. Callum McGregor has stepped up to the plate.
It's that connection. The easiest connection to get is between the players and the fans. But that comes with playing good football and winning games and the players showing that they care, Brian. And stuff like Callum McGregor doing that yesterday, and Callum speaking to the disabled fan on Saturday. The fact is that they still do the lap of appreciation at the end of the games as well. Going to the fans at the away games, I mean, that was something that was started under Ronnie Dyler when we had the Ronnie Roar and stuff like that. That connection is fairly easy to get, and it's the easiest part of the club to fix. Yeah,
I think the blocker's always the sort of the behind the scenes stuff and the sort of board and things like that. I think from the start, the fans saw in Ange a man who sort of encompassed a lot of what Celtic was and the type of person you imagine, a Celtic man to be. He wasn't a Celtic man in terms of support, but the way he talked about football, the way he talked about life, the way he talked about, Glasgow as a city with the multiculturalism, the way he talked about, people he loved and the styles, and it was all things that Celtic fans bought into him with love and a manager. He sort of had it. So I spoke earlier about Joe Hart coming in and sort of getting it. I feel like Postecoglou already had it. He just didn't realise it, if you know what I mean. He had that Celtic-minded attitude in the most positive way, which is, he speaks a lot about the fans being the most important people, pleasing them, getting them on their feet, entertaining them, giving them something to be happy about. He understands what the club's about, and I think actions like that show it. And I think the way he sort of, I don't think he's shown a lack of respect for the press, but he's certainly not took any prisoners. And I think he's been happy to let the press wait and take the time to let the fans know this is the message I want to give you. Don't worry what they're asking, and you got to love it.
I was interested to take Tony Haggerty's take on this, basically because Tony's worked in that area, and so you always have to refer to the people who are experts in that area. And he says that he was at the press conference when Ange gave one of the mates comments, and he says what didn't come over on the audio was he smiled when he says it. There was a sort of, I'm just going to... There is a light-heartedness about the way that he does it, but I also think he's intelligent enough to understand he needs to get that message across to the Celtic fans. It was the same yesterday with the press asking him, like, Walter Smith's influence in Australia, and he laughed as if they go, "You're not asking me that you've came from the other side of the world, you don't know what you're talking about." And for me, that's a bit of snobbery in Scottish football as well, that we don't have a look outside our own borders. But we need to get that togetherness, and going forward, we need that togetherness. I'm going to play the last Callum McGregor clip here, and he talks about last season against this season. And we'll move on to the third part of today's bulletin. The tagline is, can Celtic secure their first league win at Easter Road in nearly 8 years? We'll listen to Callum McGregor talking about the difference at the club between last year and this year. Then we'll have a look at tonight's game. We'll do a preview before the preview. As our viewers have probably realised, Colin's away now. He's got some stuff to do before he gets on the Greenock Celtic supporters bus and travels through to Edinburgh. Fair play to the lads for going there tonight, and hopefully they get a great result to celebrate and drink upon and have a great journey back. So I'll play this clip and we'll get talking about the Hibs game.
I think with new managers, you always get a freshness. You always get a kind of bounce. Everyone's desperate to do well. They're desperate to impress him. What he has come in and done is given us a sort of clear identity in terms of the way we want to play. He's got the thing about the fullbacks coming in, the wingers staying high, stretching the game. So there's a real sort of structure there within the game, and he's trying to teach the boys to stick to the system and trust the principles within that to get us the result, rather than at the weekend there it can get a little bit edgy in terms of you haven't scored yet, people start getting frustrated and moving all over the pitch, but then it actually becomes a bit counterproductive because the structure will get you the chances and that'll get you the success that you need. So what he's done in that sense is he's made it really clear what he wants for each position, each individual, and then he's just brought us together, with so many different cultures and personalities and nationalities. He's managed to gel the group together really quickly.
Brian, one word jumped out to me there: identity. That was the word that jumped out to me right away when he's talking about the difference between last season and this season. He says there's a togetherness and an identity. That's what you want to hear, eh?
Oh, absolutely. It's something I've been harping at for several seasons, not just this season. And it's one of those things, and I would love to know how much input Postecoglou is going to have in the youth setup. Andy Raff, the shout out Andy, made a really good point in that he says if we're playing this, inverted fullback, high press system that McGregor's alluded to, why is the under 23s not playing that way? The under 16s, the under 12s, whatever they are, whatever the brackets are, everyone should be playing that system from the bottom of the club to the first team, so that this pathway becomes a bit clearer. And that's the next thing I would like to see. I'd like to see the club line into the system and the vision and the philosophy a bit more, not just the players. Because I think, I keep going on about it, but teams like Dortmund, Man City, Leipzig, Salzburg, they play a certain way. You know what way they play. That, you know what the club's going to play, Vash, what they play like, you can tell me. Doesn't matter who's in charge. And we need to get to that point, I think. And it'll take a while, but I think we're on the right path. And it's really refreshing to hear, and I love that, Postecoglou, one of the things he said, and I think you and I particularly have always stuck with it, is we just need to believe in the system, believe in what I'm saying, and we'll get there. We just have to keep working. And I think we both said you'll take a few black eyes, and we have, but we look as if we're getting towards where we need to be. And I think, we get to January and we're only a couple of points in the league race apart for the rivals, and we're looking in decent condition. We're qualified for Europe after Christmas. I think you can be really confident and say that's a good job done, and we look as if we're getting there. And I think it's all just having faith in the manager, faith in his system, faith in his principles and his philosophies. And as Callum says, it's no, he's not adjusted. The players have adjusted to match his expectations, and that's the way it should be. And I'm glad they've stuck to it.
Sometimes that can go two ways. We saw Ronnie Dyler. He received a bit of friction against trying to bring in those changes. Brendan Rodgers walks in and tries to implement the exact same system and doesn't get that friction because it's a man that's given a different message. It seems that the players have bought in. It's a brand new side. And the tagline, can Celtic secure the first league win at Easter Road in nearly 8 years? That 8-year record is known this team. It's known Hans Postecoglou. And it's time to start setting a new record starting at 7:45 tonight.
Yes, Kev. That's the team. Big fella. You're right. I mean, 8 years things, it's a wee bit misleading because I think for a few of those years they were at the main league, they'd been relegated. But yeah, several draws, a few defeats. I always like Hibs and Celtic games, to be honest. I've just a wee cheap plug for myself. I've just written an article about the game tonight and about the sort of shared history with Celtic and Hibs and some of the players that have switched over the years, and the formation of the clubs were so influenced by Hibs, what they were at the time. And so I always quite like playing Hibs. I always liked the Hibs strips. I love their badge with the harp and the and I just think that these games are always good games, especially Easter Road. But as you say rightly, it is a different side. And I think, what's interesting is if this game would have been 3 weeks ago, we'd be the ones under pressure getting in because we had such we're on a, not the greatest form. Whereas we've now picked up a lot of form, and actually Jack Ross, whose Hibs teams were like 6-7 games unbeaten, are actually 3 games without a win. I think 3 defeats in the bounce. So it's interesting how dynamics can change so quickly in a week. But yeah, I think Richie Rich is spot on, and Richie, if you fancy giving us a tap, then that'd be lovely, mate. I think Hibs will come right at us. I think they play football the right way, but I think we'll go in there and feel really confident. And I think it'll be a massive win tonight. I think a real we'll continue that statement of intent we put forth against, Aberdeen, Motherwell.
I'm wondering if Hibs will come at us, because what you're actually saying there, they've had 3 defeats in a row. They've had 2 players sent off in the last 2 of the last 3 games. Obviously, McGregor at the weekend there was in the 96th minute or something like that. Porteous was earlier on at Ibrox. But they haven't had a shot on target in 2 games. Against Dundee United and Aberdeen, they never had a shot on target. Their expected goals was under 1 in both of those games. So it sounds like they're not creating. It sounds like they're not creating any much chances. Boyle's kind of went off the boil. I didn't actually mean that there, but this comes. Kevin Nisbet struggling to actually get his early season form back. And for those who watch Hibs and are more intelligent than me, are saying that Hibs' style has changed and they're more direct now. And it could be a case that we might see them sitting in tonight and look to play on the break with Boyle and the young laddie Gulana, who seem to have come into the team as well. So while I do not expect Celtic to have 800 passes tonight, I still expect us to utterly dominate the ball, because I think Hibs will be quite conservative in their approach to the game, even though there's no pressure on them in this game whatsoever. I mean, the pressure's out. Right, yes, they want to turn around this run, but their fans are going into this not expecting it's going to be tonight.
So what's interesting about that is that I kind of see it the other way. I think that actually this is a chance pressure-free. So if they get a result against Celtic, the confidence goes through the roof. The players will step up against Celtic and Rangers, and I think that actually they'll have a goal because they think they can, because they'll still see us as being a work in progress. And I think guys will be looking to say, if we can get a goal here, if we can have a wee go at them, we could score. And if we score and we're beating Celtic, we can beat anybody, and that confidence will come back. So. But whether they have a goal or not, I still think we dominate the ball. I think, as I say, I really think we're picking up a head of steam in terms of how we're playing, and I expect that to continue. I expect us to win tonight. I don't expect it to be an easy game. I don't expect it to be 5-0, but I think we'll win. But no, I think Hibs will think this is a win-win, because if they go ahead and they score and they win the game, that's amazing for them, and it's a real big confidence and get some season back on track. If they go for it and don't win, everybody's expecting them to beat anyway. So it's a free hit in many ways. So that's why I think they'll go for it a bit more. But listen, either way, as long as we do what we do, it doesn't matter what they do. And I think that's something I really love about how we've been playing.
Paul on YouTube, he expects a fired up Boyle against his own gaffer, and Nisbet looking to impress. That's interesting. Hibs attacking threat just come down the wings, and we play the inverted fullbacks. The midfield and those fullbacks are going to have to put in a shift in the night to actually stop Hibs getting any joy down the wide areas whatsoever. I expect us to do it. I'm actually feeling quite confident going in tonight, and that's probably the kiss of death. But I'm actually looking forward to going to Easter Road. There's no the sense of dread that I had last season going there. I can see the team's a bit more together now. We've got a bit more identity, and we want to play good football there. Hibs may give us that chance to actually play good football tonight. They might come out, but I've got a funny feeling Jack Ross is actually going to be quite conservative tonight with his approach.
As I say, ultimately I don't think it matters too much what they do. I think we'll be able to just keep imposing our game and try to keep improving that. But as I say, I'm a big fan of the Celtic Hibs games. I always enjoy them. I always think there's a good competitive element to it. I think it's got still a really nice stadium as well. It's a good place to play football, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's got a classic Scottish feel about it, eh? It's got a heavyweight Scottish feel about it. Hibs v Celtic. It has got that heavyweight connotations. State of Mind, Paul, in the background comes in. Subscribe on the YouTube to win 3 October prizes: a signed framed Bobby Lennox print,
and a VT watch and 2 tickets for Bend It Like Bertie in Greenock. I'm hopefully going to be in Greenock for Bend It Like Bertie. Not the 2 tickets, but I'm hopefully I'm going to be insider knowledge there, eh? No, I hope to go and see Bend It Like Bertie in Greenock. I missed it in Glasgow, so I hope to be making a wee trip down the coast. Maybe get a wee poker chips or something like that as well when I'm there and have a look at the boats. I'm looking forward to the game tonight. We've got a couple of minutes just to wrap up. What do you expect the score to be tonight, Brian?
I'm going to go with a 2-0. I think with another clean sheet. I think, we'll definitely score a couple. I don't expect it to be an absolute battering, but I think we will dominate, possession. I think it'll be fairly controlled. I don't think it'll be any sort of 6-7-0s, but yeah, I think a good comfortable win. And that's exactly what we need to keep doing. Just keep getting the wins, keep in touch with the league leaders, whether it be Hearts or Rangers or Dundee United are looking all right. So, keep in touch with these teams to January, see what we do then. We're in a good place.
Okay, I'm back later on at 7:15. It's me, Lawrence Connolly and Russell Boyce are going to be doing the match day tonight. Just want to thank you all for listening or watching. Please subscribe. And remember, if you haven't got a good word to say about anybody, then say it at all. Be kind to each other. Thanks very much.